When I finally told the truth about what he did to me, my family didn't call the police. They called a family meeting and asked me to forgive him. That was the moment I realized the safest thing I could do was leave them all behind. I was 31 years old the day my mother asked me to forgive the man who broke me. She didn't use the word abuse. She said it softly, like she was smoothing wrinkles out of a dress. Families don't survive by holding on to the past, she said. Folding napkins at the dining table like this was Thanksgiving and not a trial for my sanity. We heal by letting go. Letting go. As if what happened to me was a balloon I'd been gripping too tightly, not something that had carved itself into my nervous system. My abuser sat across the room. Evan. My cousin by marriage. My childhood babysitter. The man who taught me how to ride a bike, and later taught me that my body was not mine. He stared at the floor like a penitent saint. Everyone else stared at me. I felt 12 again. Small. Trapped. Calculating exits. You don't have to say anything, my aunt chimed in quickly. Just, maybe a nod. So we can move forward. Move forward. That phrase would haunt me for years. Because no one ever asked Evan to move forward. They asked me to. I hadn't planned on telling my family. For most of my adult life, I believed silence was survival. I built a life around not needing them. A modest apartment in Portland, a job editing grant proposals, friends who knew me only as the funny one who cried at dog videos. I told myself I was fine. Until the nightmares came back. They always started the same way. A locked door. A voice telling me to be quiet. Hands I recognized before I ever saw a face. I'd wake up gasping, my heart punching my ribs like it wanted out. My therapist said something that cracked the shell I'd lived inside for years. Your body remembers what your family pretends didn't happen. That was the week I decided to tell the truth. The family meeting was my mother's idea. We'll talk it through like adults, she said over the phone. No drama. No drama. I should have known then. We met at my parents' house, the same house where Evan used to babysit me after school. The walls were still beige. The carpet still smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. The hallway still narrowed near the guest bedroom. My chest tightened. Do you want me to come with you? My friend Maya had asked. No, I said. If I can't face them alone, I'll never know where I stand. Now I knew. My father cleared his throat once I finished speaking. I told them everything. Not in graphic detail, just enough truth to make the room feel heavy. Evan didn't deny it. He cried. That, apparently, was worse. See? My mother whispered urgently. He's remorseful. Remorseful. Like regret could rewind time. Like his tears weighed more than my years of silence. I've changed, Evan said, voice shaking. I found God. I felt something inside me snap. Not loudly, but cleanly. Like a rope being cut. My aunt reached for my hand. He was young too, she said. I was younger. But no one said that. The meeting ended with coffee. Coffee. As if this were a book club discussion that had gone slightly off topic. My mother pulled me aside near the sink. Forgiveness is for you, she said. Carrying anger will ruin your life. I looked at her hands, the same hands that braided my hair before school. You're asking me to protect him, I said quietly. Again. She flinched. I'm asking you to protect the family. And there it was. The truth I'd been avoiding. In my family, the system mattered more than the child. That night, I packed a suitcase. I didn't make a scene. I left a note on the kitchen counter. I forgive myself for staying silent. I forgive myself for surviving. I do not forgive what was done to me, and I will not pretend it didn't happen so others can be comfortable. I drove away before sunrise. I didn't know then that walking away would cost me almost everything, but it would also save my life. I thought the hardest part would be leaving. I was wrong. The hardest part was what came after. I woke up my first morning alone in a cheap motel outside Salem with a stiff neck, a half-dead phone, and 27 missed calls. All from family. Not one message asked if I was okay. They asked where I'd gone. They asked why I was being dramatic. They asked when I planned to come back and finished the conversation like an adult. One voicemail from my mother stood out. Her voice was calm. Too calm. People are talking, she said. You didn't think about how this would look. How this would look. Not what it did to me. Not what it took to say it out loud. Just the optics. I turned the phone face down and let it buzz itself into silence. By noon, the story had already changed. I knew because my cousin Laura texted me. I heard you accused Evan of something really serious. Are you okay? Accused. That single word rewrote my life. I replied carefully. I told the truth about something that happened when I was a child. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. She never replied. Within a week, I learned how quickly a family can rewrite history when the truth threatens their comfort. According to them, I was confused. I was holding on to resentment. I was mentally fragile. One aunt suggested my therapist had put ideas in my head. Another said I'd always been sensitive. Sensitive. That word followed me like a stain. The worst blow came on a Sunday afternoon. I was sitting in my car outside a grocery store when Maya called. Her voice was tight. Have you checked Facebook? No, I said. Why? There was a pause. Your mom posted something. My stomach dropped. The post didn't mention my name. It didn't need to. Sometimes the greatest heartbreak is watching someone you love destroy a family with false memories. Forgiveness is a choice. Prayer is a solution. Silence is grace. The comments were worse. So sad when bitterness takes over. Praying for healing, for everyone involved. Families shouldn't air private matters. Private, like what happened to me, belonged to them. I sat in the car and shook until my hands went numb. This was the punishment, not for lying, for refusing to lie for them. 2 days later, Evan emailed me. I stared at his name on the screen for a full minute before opening it. I'm sorry you're struggling, he wrote. I thought we had an understanding at the meeting. I admitted my mistakes and asked for forgiveness. Dragging this out publicly is hurting a lot of people. Hurting a lot of people. Not me. Never me. He ended the email with, I hope you find peace. I laughed, a sharp, broken sound that startled even me. Peace. That word again. Always offered like a muzzle. I forwarded the email to my therapist. She replied with one sentence. This is manipulation. Seeing it named felt like oxygen. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the meeting. My mother's face, my father's silence, Evan's tears. Then a memory surfaced. One I hadn't thought about in years. My grandmother. She had lived with us for a while when I was 13. She used to knock softly before entering my room. Always. Once, when Evan was babysitting, she came home early. I remembered the way she looked at him. Sharp, measuring. The way she asked me later, did he behave himself? I'd said yes. She'd sighed, not relieved. Resigned. At the time, I didn't understand why. Now, my chest tightened. I found her old address in a stack of papers my mother had once given me. She lived 3 states away now. I hesitated for hours before calling. When she answered, her voice was thin but steady. Hello. It's me, I said. Your granddaughter. She went quiet. I wondered when you'd call, she said softly. My breath caught. You knew. Another pause. I suspected, she said. And I was told to stay out of it. Told. By whom didn't matter. I already knew. She asked me to come see her. There are things your mother doesn't want remembered, she said. But I kept them anyway. What things? I asked. Proof, she said. The word hit like a bell. Proof. I booked a bus ticket that night. As I packed, my phone buzzed again. A message from my father. Your mother is very upset. This has gone far enough. Call us. I stared at it, then placed the phone face down. For the first time since I'd told the truth, I didn't feel afraid. I felt ready. Because the story they were telling about me was about to fall apart. The bus ride felt longer than it should have. Every mile gave my mind more room to wander and remember. By the time I arrived, my hands were shaking. My grandmother lived in a small blue house at the edge of a quiet town. Wind chimes clinked softly on the porch. When she opened the door, she looked smaller than I remembered. But her eyes were sharp. Always had been. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like lavender and old books. You're brave, she whispered. Whether they admit it or not. Something inside me cracked and settled. We sat at her kitchen table with tea that went cold. She didn't waste time. I need you to understand something, she said. What happened to you wasn't an accident. And it wasn't the first time. My chest tightened. First time. She nodded once. She stood and walked slowly to a hallway closet. From the highest shelf, she pulled down a battered shoebox. Its corners were soft with age. She placed it between us like evidence in a courtroom. I was told to burn this, she said. I couldn't. Inside were old letters. Handwritten. Dated decades back. The name Evan appeared again and again. So did another name. Melissa. Who's Melissa? I asked. My grandmother closed her eyes. His first victim, she said. The word victim landed with terrifying clarity. Melissa was my mother's college roommate. She'd lived with our family one summer. I'd heard stories about her, how she'd left suddenly, how she'd been troubled. She told your mother, my grandmother said. Everything. My breath caught. And my mom chose the family, she finished. The letters were from Melissa. She'd written to my grandmother after being pushed out. Desperate. Angry. Broken. One line burned into my brain. If you protect him, he will do this again. I dropped the letter. He did. I whispered. My grandmother reached for my hand. I tried to stop it, she said. They said I was overreacting. That I'd ruin everything. Ruin everything. Not protect children. She showed me more. A journal. Her handwriting this time. Dates. Observations. Conversations she wasn't supposed to remember. Including one entry from the year I was 12. Evan left her room too quickly. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I told them again. They told me to stay out of it. My vision blurred. They knew, I said. She nodded. They chose, she corrected. I felt something rise in me, not rage. Clarity. For the first time, the shame loosened its grip. It had never belonged to me. That night, my phone buzzed again. A text from my aunt. Your grandmother is confused these days. Please don't upset her with lies. I showed it to my grandmother. She smiled sadly. They always say that when women get inconvenient, she said. The next morning, she handed me a folder. Inside were copies, already made. For when they deny it, she said. And they will. I hugged her tightly. What if this destroys the family? I asked. She pulled back and looked at me. Families that survive by sacrificing children deserve to fall, she said. On the ride home, my phone finally rang. My mother. I answered. Her voice was strained. Why are you digging this up? She demanded. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Yes, I said calmly. I'm telling the truth. You're being vindictive, she snapped. No, I said. I'm being accurate. Silence. Then, quietly. You'll regret this. I looked at the folder in my lap. I already regretted staying silent, I said. I'm done doing that. When I hung up, my hands weren't shaking. They were steady. Because for the first time, the truth wasn't just mine. It was documented. And the story my family had built was about to collapse. I didn't announce what I was doing. I didn't post online. I didn't warn anyone. I'd learned by then that truth travels best when it isn't asking for permission. The next family gathering was my uncle's retirement party. Catered food. Matching napkins. A rented hall with bad lighting and worse acoustics. Everyone would be there. Including Evan. My therapist asked me if I was sure. I'm not going to confront him, I said. I'm going to stop protecting everyone else. She nodded once. That's different, she said. I arrived early. My grandmother's folder sat heavy in my bag. Proof has weight. People feel it before they see it. My mother froze when she saw me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. You shouldn't be here, she hissed, pulling me aside. You don't get to decide where I exist, I said quietly. She glanced around. Not today, she said. Please. I thought of the journal. Of Melissa. Of the locked door. Today is exactly when, I replied. Evan didn't notice me at first. He was laughing with relatives, arm around his wife, playing the role they'd rehearsed for years. I felt the old fear rise, then fall away, because predators rely on silence. And silence had left the room. I didn't stand on a chair. I didn't shout. I asked for a microphone. The room quieted with the kind of confusion that precedes impact. My uncle frowned. What's this about? Family, I said. That word still worked. I told the truth. Calmly. Briefly. I named what happened. I named when. I named who knew. I didn't embellish. I didn't beg. I held up copies of the letters. The journal. Melissa's words. Gasps rippled. My mother's face drained of color. Evan stood up so fast his chair fell. This is insane, he said. She's unstable. There it was. The script. I looked at the crowd. Ask him why there are letters dated 10 years before I was born, I said. Ask him why another woman wrote the same story. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Someone did ask. It wasn't who I expected. Evan's wife. Her voice shook. What letters? He didn't answer. He looked at my mother. She looked away. That was the moment the room understood. The party ended early. People left in clusters, whispering. Some hugged me. Some wouldn't meet my eyes. Every reaction told the truth. 2 days later, the consequences began. Evan was quietly removed from his volunteer position at church. Then his job. Not because of me, because multiple people came forward. Turns out silence had been the only thing holding the dam. My mother showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked older, smaller. I didn't think it would go this far, she said. That's the problem, I replied. You didn't think about me at all. She cried then. Real tears. For the first time, I didn't comfort her. You could have ruined him, she said weakly. I met her eyes. He ruined himself, I said. You just helped. She flinched. Truth has a recoil. That night, I received an email from a lawyer. Not his. Hers. Melissa. She'd seen the fallout. She wanted to talk. My hands trembled, not with fear, with something like justice. Because when one truth is believed, others find their voice. And my family's story, the one built on silence, was finally collapsing under its own weight. Melissa called me the next morning. Her voice was steady in the way only people who've already survived the worst can be. I saw what you did, she said. I've been waiting a long time for someone to believe you. I sat on the floor with my back against the couch and cried. Not loudly. Relief has its own quiet sound. We met in person a week later. She looked nothing like the stories my family had told about her. She was composed, thoughtful, careful with her words. She told me everything. How Evan had isolated her. How my mother had confronted her, not him. How she'd been asked to leave quietly so no one's future would be ruined. My future was already gone, she said simply. The math was brutal. Melissa had filed a report years ago. It had gone nowhere. But records remain. Patterns matter. Her attorney believed there was enough now to reopen everything. Only if you're ready, Melissa said. This gets ugly. I thought of my grandmother. Of the letters. Of every night I'd woken up gasping. I've already lived the ugly part, I said. This is just the paperwork. My family found out within days. The calls started again. This time, angrier. My aunt accused me of revenge. My father accused me of tearing the family apart. My mother showed up again. This time, she didn't cry. She was furious. You're destroying everything, she said. There will be consequences. I nodded. I know, I said. I've lived with them my whole life. She stared at me, as if seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. Evan was arrested quietly. No cameras. No spectacle. Just a knock on the door early one morning. That mattered more than any headline. Because justice isn't loud. It's thorough. The family group chat went silent, then disappeared. Invitations stopped coming. So did the guilt. I expected grief. What I felt was peace. My grandmother passed away before the trial concluded. I held her hand in hospice. You did good, she whispered. Don't go back. I promised her I wouldn't. Evan pleaded guilty. Not to everything. Enough. Enough to validate every truth my body had carried. Enough to make the silence impossible again. Months later, my mother sent a letter. Handwritten. She apologized. Not for what happened. For how hard it had been for her. I folded it carefully. And put it away. I didn't respond. Because forgiveness is not the same as access. And love does not require self-erasure. I built a new life. Chosen family. Quiet mornings. Sleep without fear. The past didn't disappear. It lost its power. Sometimes people ask if I regret walking away. I tell them the truth. I didn't walk away from my family, I say. I walked toward myself. It wasn't a sunrise moment. It came in fragments. The first was sleep. Not perfect sleep, but real sleep. The kind where I didn't wake up already bracing for impact. The nightmares faded slowly, like a radio losing signal. Some nights they came back. Most nights they didn't. That was enough. The second was silence. Not the kind my family demanded. The kind I chose. No phone buzzing with guilt. No messages asking me to smooth things over. No holidays negotiated like ceasefires. Just quiet. And space to breathe. I moved. Not because I was running, but because I could. A small place near the water. Morning light. Windows that faced the sky, not memories. I learned that safety can feel boring at first. Then sacred. People sometimes expect survivors to become symbols. Advocates. Warriors. I didn't. I became ordinary. And that felt revolutionary. I kept in touch with Melissa. We weren't bonded by trauma. We were bonded by truth. On the anniversary of the plea, we sent each other one word. Free. My family tried again. A holiday invite. A photo of smiling faces. A message that said, "We miss you." No accountability. No change. Just distance disguised as nostalgia. I didn't respond. For a long time, I wondered if that made me cruel. Therapy taught me something different. Boundaries are not punishment. They are protection. On my grandmother's birthday, I visited her grave. I told her about the life she never got to see. The mornings. The quiet. The peace. I kept my promise, I said. The wind moved through the trees. I took that as agreement. I don't forgive Evan. I don't need to. Justice was not about absolution. It was about acknowledgement. And I got that. I forgive myself. For surviving the only way I knew how. For staying silent when I had to. For speaking when I was ready. If you're reading this and recognizing your own family and mine, hear this. You are not responsible for maintaining systems that harm you. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to build something better. Sometimes people still ask if I'll ever go back. I smile. No, I say. I finally arrived.